Two women, two legacies, one storm no one saw coming. Yandy Smith and Rasheeda Frost, names that echo through the halls of love and hip-hop, have ignited the kind of chaos that shakes the entire franchise. What started as whispers in interviews, sly remarks online, and rumors floating on podcasts has exploded into a confrontation the audience will never forget. Fans thought they had seen it all. They were wrong. This time it wasn't just television. It was personal. Yandy, known for her calm demeanor and sharp intelligence, walked into this clash ready to defend her name. But defense wasn't enough. She came armed with words meant to pierce deeper than any casual shade. She came to settle old scores. Across from her stood Rasheeda, the self-proclaimed queen of resilience, a woman who has weathered scandals, marital storms, and endless headlines. She wasn't backing down. She never does. The tension between them had been brewing for years, bubbling beneath the surface like a volcano waiting to erupt. Every look exchanged carried years of resentment. Every pause in their voices signaled history that fans thought had been buried. But nothing was buried. The past was alive, sharp, and ready to spill. The stage wasn't just a stage. It was a battlefield. And on this night, the battlefield was set for a war of words, pride, and survival. The energy in the room shifted instantly, the air thick with anticipation. People watching could feel it through the screen. The whispers had finally transformed into a storm. A storm so fierce, it promised to shake marriages, reputations, and the very crown of love and hip-hop itself. This wasn't just another argument. It was the beginning of something far bigger. The moment the tension snapped, Yandy wasted no time. She leaned forward, eyes sharp, voice steady, and fired the first strike. "Rasheeda," she declared, "you need to quit hiding behind that perfect wife image. Everybody knows the truth. You've been out here questioning loyalty while ignoring the mess in your own backyard." The room froze. The audience stiffened. And then Yandy dropped a line no one expected. "If you really want receipts, let's start with the DNA test. Since we all know there's a child floating around who might not even belong where you claim he does." Shockwaves ripped through the space. Gasps filled the silence. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate for a fraction of a second. The words hung heavy, impossible to ignore. Rasheeda's face tightened. Her lips pressed into a thin line. But Yandy wasn't finished. She pressed harder, her tone cutting like glass. "You walk around talking about loyalty and faithfulness, but your own situation looks like a Maury episode waiting to happen. Don't test me because I'll pull files nobody wants to see." It wasn't just an insult. It was a direct challenge to Rasheeda's marriage, her motherhood, her brand, her entire image. And the effect was immediate. Viewers watching online erupted in disbelief. Comments shot across live feeds. Memes formed in real time. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Before Yandy's bombshell, the fight felt like a heated debate. After those words, it felt like destruction. Lines had been crossed. Trust shattered. Rasheeda tried to steady her breathing, but her silence only made Yandy's words echo louder. People leaned closer, waiting to see if Rasheeda would snap. Yandy smirked slightly, knowing she had seized control of the moment. "This ain't about shade anymore," she continued. "This is about facts. You can sing all the pretty songs you want, but facts don't go away. And the fact is that DNA don't lie." Every syllable landed like a blow. Viewers couldn't believe what they were hearing. Even cast members in the background looked stunned, their expressions frozen between disbelief and curiosity. For years, Rasheeda had painted herself as the resilient survivor, the woman who endured trials and kept her family together. In seconds, Yandy cracked that image with one merciless line. The gravity of the accusation wasn't just personal, it was nuclear. Questioning paternity on national television wasn't a jab. It was a scorched earth strike, one that could ripple through families, friendships, and future seasons. And Yandy knew exactly what she was doing. Her voice didn't waver. Her eyes never blinked. She wasn't defending. She was attacking, determined to expose what she claimed was hidden beneath polished appearances. The audience could feel the balance of power shift. This was no longer a conversation. It was an ambush, and the energy grew heavier with each passing second. People whispered that this was the moment the feud became historic, that this single allegation would be replayed, dissected, and remembered as one of the most ruthless openings in love and hip-hop history. By the time Yandy finished, the silence felt unbearable. Everyone knew Rasheeda had to finished. The silence felt unbearable. Everyone knew Rasheeda had to respond. But how do you fight back when the first blow strikes at the very foundation of your family? The war had officially begun. Rasheeda didn't flinch for long. Her eyes narrowed, her tone sharpened, and the rebuttal came like fire. Yandy, you will not sit here and disrespect my family. You will not drag my children into this circus. A DNA test? Girl, you sound desperate. You're reaching so far you might as well touch the moon. The crowd stirred, the energy rising again. Rasheeda leaned forward, her words slicing back with force. You talk about facts, but all you've got are blog rumors and podcast lies. I've built my brand for decades, and I won't let somebody chasing clout tear it down with recycled gossip. Her voice grew stronger, fueled by raw fury. You want to question my marriage? Let's talk about yours. You parade around like the perfect wife. But I've seen interviews where your own man hinted at cracks. You've done podcasts acting holier than thou while living in glass houses. Don't test me, because I'll break every window you hide behind. The audience gasped at her sudden escalation. Rasheeda wasn't just defending, she was counterattacking. You love throwing shade in interviews. I've heard you speak slick on shows, painting me as weak. But let me be clear. I am not weak. I survived betrayal, I rebuilt my empire, and I'm still standing. Meanwhile, you're out here trying to trend because you don't have a storyline that stands on its own. Her words hit like rapid-fire bullets. Each sentence carried more weight than the last. You think dragging my family will earn you sympathy? No. It just proves how low you'll go when you can't compete. You live for blogs, for likes, for cheap validation. I live for respect. And respect is something you'll never get if you keep throwing dirt to stay relevant. The tension in the room thickened, almost unbearable. Rasheeda's voice thundered, steady yet emotional. You want to call me out on podcasts? Then let's call out the fact that you love playing victim in every interview. Every time somebody checks you, you run to the cameras with tears, begging people to see you as the innocent one. That act is tired. That script is old. And the world is catching on! Gasps and whispers surged again. The balance of power was swinging, tilting back toward Rasheeda. You came in here trying to humiliate me with lies. But lies don't last. The truth always wins. And the truth is, I've built something solid while you're still trying to prove you belong. You want to talk queens? You're standing in front of one. The crown isn't borrowed, it's earned. Her final line cut through the noise like thunder. So, Yandy, keep my name out your mouth unless you're ready for the smoke. Because I promise you, I will burn every falsehood to the ground before I let you rewrite my story, the audience roared. The escalation was undeniable. The storm had just grown louder. Yandy fired back instantly, refusing to let Rasheeda seize control. Oh, now you want to act brand new, please? You've sat in countless interviews pretending to be the perfect example, but every headline screams something else. Blogs didn't invent your scandals, Rasheeda. You gave them the material yourself. Her voice grew sharper, laced with venom. You love to accuse me of chasing clout, but let's be real. Half your career has been you explaining the same storyline over and over. Your husband's cheating, your tears, your so-called strength. That's not empowerment. That's recycling pain for a check. Rasheeda clapped back without hesitation. And yet the public still respects me. Why? Because I don't fake friendships. I don't smile in people's faces and then run to podcasts to throw shade. That's you, Yandy. That's your entire brand. Being messy behind microphones. The audience erupted at the jab. Yandy's tone dropped lower, more dangerous. You want to talk messy? Let's talk receipts. I've got clips of you on radio shows twisting your own truth, acting like your marriage never hit the rocks. Then a week later, the same man you defended was caught in headlines again. You call that real? That's not real, Rasheeda. That's delusion. Gasps filled the air as Rasheeda leaned in, fire in her words. Delusion? Girl, please. You built your reputation riding on men's coattails. Managers, rappers, producers. You attach yourself to power and then act like you created it. Meanwhile, I built a business, a boutique, an empire. I turned pain into profit. You turned gossip into survival. Yandy didn't miss a beat. And yet here you are still crying about the same betrayal 10 seasons later. You wear it like a badge. Nobody buys it anymore. They tune in because you're predictable, not because you're powerful. Stop selling suffering like it's merchandise. The tension spiked again. Rasheeda shot forward, her voice vibrating with fury. You've got nerve. You sit here claiming to be above drama, but every time a blog calls your name, you're the first to run and clap back. You feed off the same gossip you pretend to hate. Hypocrisy much? Yandy's eyes narrowed, her words slicing through the air. At least I don't beg for relevance by keeping my pain on repeat. At least I don't cry on cue just to remind the world I exist. And don't get it twisted. People see the difference. They know authenticity when they hear it. Rasheeda's laugh was sharp, cutting. Authenticity? Coming from you? The woman who stays doing interviews where she plays victim, painting everyone else as the villain? Girl, you live for sympathy points. Without pity, you'd have no platform. The crowd roared, the exchange growing hotter. Yandy shot back fast. Keep talking because every word you spit proves my point. You live in the past, stuck on reruns. I'm moving forward. I'm making moves. You're stuck telling the same sad story while the world passes you by. Rasheeda's reply thundered. And you're stuck chasing relevance you can't hold on to. That's why you're always dropping receipts, always trying to expose somebody else. You think exposure makes you powerful, but it only makes you petty. Queens don't dig for dirt. Queens stand tall without it. Yandy delivered her sharpest line yet, her voice like ice. A queen doesn't hide cracks under crowns, Rasheeda. And you've been hiding for too long. Every headline proves it. Every podcast confirms it. The empire you brag about? Built on denial. The silence after her words was heavy, charged with disbelief. Rasheeda's eyes flashed, her tone unshakable. Then let me make this clear. I don't run from my past. I own it. I lived it. And I turned it into power. That's something you'll never understand, because you've never faced your truth head on. You dance around it, hoping the world won't notice. But trust me, they notice. The audience screamed, torn between both women, the energy splitting the room in half. The accusations had shifted from sharp words to deep wounds. Podcasts, blogs, interviews, and scandals weren't just topics, they were weapons. And both women were swinging with everything they had. By the end of their exchange, no one could deny it. This was more than an argument. This was a battle for legacy, and neither one was backing down. The crowd didn't just watch. They exploded. Gasps turned into shouts, whispers into screams, and within seconds, phones were out, capturing every heated word. Fans in the audience weren't just reacting. They were documenting history in real time. Social media lit up like wildfire. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok filled with clips before the segment even ended. Hashtags stormed the timeline. Team Yandy, Team Rasheeda, DNA receipts, and love and hip-hop war. The split was immediate. Supporters drew battle lines without hesitation. Memes appeared within minutes. Screenshots of Yandy's smirk went viral, captioned with phrases like, "She said what she said." At the same time, Rasheeda's fierce stare was plastered across feeds with quotes like, "Queens don't crumble." Fans weren't just choosing sides. They were crafting narratives, turning the feud into a digital battleground. Live comments streamed nonstop. Yandy's exposing real truth, one user wrote. Another countered instantly. Rasheeda just ended her whole career. The chat scrolled so fast it was impossible to keep up. Every second brought new fire, new insults, and new alliances. Even celebrities weighed in, some dropping cryptic tweets, others posting emojis that fans interpreted as coded support. The ripple effect was undeniable. This wasn't just a fight on stage, it was a cultural moment online. The crowd in the studio fed off the chaos too. Some shouted for Yandy to keep pressing. Others screamed for Rasheeda to shut it all down. The energy was wild, uncontrolled, and impossible to ignore. By the end of the night, one truth was clear. This feud wasn't contained to cameras anymore. It had leapt into timelines, comment sections, and group chats worldwide. The audience had officially become part of the war, and they weren't backing down either. Yandy leaned in closer, her voice dropping, her tone sharper than ever. Rasheeda, let's stop playing. You parade your family like it's untouchable, but everyone knows the cracks. You want to talk loyalty? Where was your loyalty when your husband humiliated you in front of the entire world? Where was your pride when you cried on national television begging him to change? The words cut like a blade. The air went still, the weight unbearable. Yandy wasn't throwing shade anymore. She was tearing into the very foundation of Rasheeda's personal life. Rasheeda's jaw tightened, but her answer came strong, charged with pain and rage. You don't get to speak on my children. You don't get to speak on my marriage. Because at least I kept mine together. At least I chose to fight for my family. Meanwhile, you've been out here fronting like you hold the blueprint for perfect love. But everybody sees the truth. We all know your house isn't as spotless as you pretend. The crowd gasped, the tension rising again. Rasheeda pressed harder, her words landing with brutal force. Loyalty isn't about perfection. It's about staying when the world expects you to run. I stayed, I fought, and I built a life my kids can be proud of. What exactly have you built, Yandy? Instagram likes? Sympathy interviews? Temporary fame? Yandy's face hardened, her rebuttal quick and fierce. You stayed because you were too scared to leave. Don't twist it into strength. Don't sell humiliation as loyalty. That's not resilience. That's surrender. You call it building, but what you really did was settle for less. And everybody knows it. The room erupted again, half the crowd shouting for Yandy, half for Rasheeda. The split was raw and real. Rasheeda's fury ignited, her voice shaking but steady. My kids will never watch me quit on their father. They'll never see me abandon my home. That's loyalty, Yandy. That's sacrifice. And you wouldn't understand. Because your version of loyalty is running when things get hard. You walk away, I stay. That's the difference between us. Yandy didn't flinch, her words colder than ice. The difference is, I know my worth. I know when to draw the line. You let betrayal become your brand. You let your children watch you get disrespected again and again, and you still call it strength. That's not strength, Rasheeda. That's teaching the next generation that pain is normal. Gasps filled the air again. It wasn't just drama anymore. It was a brutal clash of philosophies. What loyalty really meant, what survival really cost. Rasheeda's reply thundered with conviction. You can twist it all you want, but at the end of the day, my family is intact. My kids see a mother who fought through storms and still stood tall. They see unity. They see love. And that's something no DNA test, no gossip blog, and no so-called friend can take away. Yandy's voice rose once more, commanding, merciless. Your kids see a mother who normalized humiliation. And one day, they'll ask why you stayed. And when that day comes, your excuses won't sound like love. They'll sound like fear. The silence that followed was deafening. Both women stared at each other, both unwilling to blink, both refusing to surrender. The words had gone beyond shade, beyond gossip, beyond entertainment. They had crossed into family, into children, into the deepest wounds of all. This wasn't just conflict. This was war on the most personal battlefield imaginable. And neither Yandy nor Rasheeda showed any sign of backing down. Rasheeda straightened her posture, her voice steady but full of fire. Let's settle this once and for all. I'm the queen of this franchise. Atlanta runs the culture, runs the music, and runs the ratings. New York had its moment, but that moment is gone. The crown lives in the South now, and I wear it proudly. The declaration sparked cheers and boos alike. Yandy's expression sharpened, her reply cutting with precision. Queen, please? A queen doesn't cry her way through every season. A queen doesn't stay in scandal and call it strength. If we're talking crowns, it belongs to New York. I held this franchise together when half of you were forgotten. I put in work, I built connections, I made storylines that people still talk about. You can't erase that, no matter how many boutiques you open. The audience buzzed, the tension stretching tight. Rasheeda clapped her hands, punctuating her rebuttal. You think New York defines legacy? Girl, New York fell apart. Cast members left, the drama dried up, and nobody cared. Meanwhile, Atlanta kept delivering. Season after season, headline after headline. I didn't just survive it, I helped carry it. That's royalty. Yandy didn't back down. Her words came quick, forceful. Royalty isn't about ratings. It's about respect. And respect doesn't come from recycling the same storyline until it's dust. Respect comes from impact. I don't just live in the headlines. I shape them. When people mention love and hip-hop, my name is in the conversation every time. That's not an accident. That's legacy. The crowd roared again. Both women were throwing daggers wrapped as declarations. Rasheeda leaned closer, eyes locked, voice sharp as steel. You want to talk impact? My brand is bigger than this show. I took the exposure and flipped it into businesses, music, and a lifestyle that fans actually buy. You're still just chasing airtime. The difference between us? I turned reality TV into real-life success. You turned it into interviews and gossip wars. Yandy shot back instantly, her tone heavy with sarcasm. And yet, here you are fighting for attention just like me. If your empire was that solid, you wouldn't even be here. Don't act like you're above this stage when you're sitting on it. Same as me. The truth is, without this platform, half of your empire wouldn't exist. Remember that before you rewrite history. The atmosphere vibrated with intensity, the crowd feeding on every syllable. Rasheeda smirked, delivering a line meant to sting. Queens don't need validation. They build it. And Atlanta built the throne that New York abandoned. You can keep calling yourself a legend, but down here, we call that delusional. Yandy's eyes flashed. Her response a perfect mic drop. Delusional is clinging to a crown that was never yours to begin with. You're a regional act trying to rewrite global history. I built something coast to coast, headline to headline. My name doesn't just echo in Atlanta, it echoes everywhere. That's the difference. That's why when people talk Queens, they don't stop at you. They stop at me. The room erupted. Fans screamed. The energy felt electric, uncontainable. Rasheeda slammed her final word into the fire. Queens aren't voted in, they're proven. And I've proven it season after season, standing tall while others fell. I didn't need chaos to stay relevant. I created relevance, so keep your speeches, Yandy. Atlanta already claimed the crown and the world knows it. Yandy smiled coldly, her voice slicing through the roar. And yet you're still arguing for it. Funny thing about true queens, they don't beg for thrones. They simply wear them. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded. Every fan, every viewer, every critic knew they had just witnessed two of the sharpest, most unforgettable mic drop moments in love and hip-hop history. The battle over identity, legacy, and royalty had reached its peak. And no matter who people believed, one truth was undeniable. Both women had carved their names into the franchise forever. The tension snapped like a live wire. Producers jumped from their seats, waving their arms, shouting for calm. But calm was nowhere in sight. The argument had crossed a line, and security moved fast. Heavy boots pounded across the floor as guards rushed in, forming a wall between the stars before the chaos spun further out of control. Yet even with security blocking the path, the fury didn't die. Voices kept rising, fists clenched, threats flying through the air. The crew looked stunned, frozen for a split second, then scattered in every direction. Headsets crackled with frantic orders. Keep the cameras rolling. Don't miss this, because in reality TV, disaster means ratings. And the cameras never stopped. Every scream, every shove, every trembling hand, it was captured in high definition. The producers knew they had struck unpredictable gold. But with that gold came danger. Security locked their stance, holding back both sides like human barricades. Still, the rage pushed against them, each attempt to break free like a storm hitting the shore. A producer shouted, "Separate them now!" Another barked back, "If we cut, we lose the moment." The room split between safety and spectacle. Meanwhile, assistants scrambled to calm the background. Cast members who weren't in the fight pulled out their phones, documenting the meltdown in real time. Social media would be on fire before the episode even aired. The set itself felt unstable, like it could collapse under the weight of too much fury. One wrong move, one missed grab, and the confrontation could have turned into something far darker. Security knew it, the producers knew it, and yet, nobody wanted to stop the cameras. In the middle of the storm, one truth stood out. What began as a verbal war had escalated into a full-scale crisis. A crisis where the line between production and real life was not just blurred, it was erased completely. When the shouting stopped and the stage fell silent, the weight of what had unfolded hung in the air like smoke after a fire. This was more than a clash between two women. It was a cultural earthquake. The kind of moment that forever divides time into before and after. For years, the franchise thrived on messy love triangles, betrayals, and headline-grabbing scandals. But this confrontation was different. It felt raw, unfiltered, personal in a way that even reality TV rarely dares to show. And because of that, it will not be forgotten. Fans are already calling it the fight that redefined the brand. Producers, while shaken, know they hold lightning in a bottle. Storylines will be rewritten. Future seasons will orbit around this night. Every new feud, every alliance, every plotline will now be measured against the chaos that erupted here. But beyond production, the legacies of Yandy and Rasheeda have been permanently altered. One will be remembered for delivering a devastating strike. The other for refusing to bow, no matter how brutal the blows. Both left scars. Both left marks. And those marks will follow them long after the cameras stop rolling. The question now isn't what happened. Everyone saw it. The question is what it means. For loyalty. For reputation. For the identity of the show itself. Did this confrontation strengthen the franchise, or did it fracture it? Only time will decide. But one fact is clear. The night Yandy and Rasheeda went to war will echo across the series like thunder. And no matter where the show goes next, this will remain the moment everything changed. The storm may have ended on stage, but for you, the audience, the story is only beginning. What do you think? Was Yandy justified when she dropped that DNA bombshell, or did Rasheeda prove she's still the unshakable force of the franchise? Your voice matters here, so we want to hear it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Pick a side. Who truly won this war of words? Who crossed the line and who came out looking stronger? And let's not stop there. Should producers have stepped in sooner, or was letting it play out exactly what kept this showdown unforgettable? Do you believe this moment will unite the franchise or tear it apart forever? Tell us, engage with us, cast your vote in the poll. Because the debate doesn't stop when the cameras cut. It continues right here, with you. While you're at it, smash that like button if this breakdown had you hooked. Subscribe so you never miss the next explosive update. And turn on notifications, because trust us, the fallout is far from over. One last question to leave lingering in your mind. Was this clash the beginning of a new dynasty in reality television, or the breaking point that signals the end of an era? The comments are yours. The verdict is yours. The legacy, however, remains unwritten. So, viewers, what happens next?